All right, we're live. Welcome, 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 Tracy. I'm so happy to have you in the room here with me live, and I'm happy to have everyone out here who is this listening to our live show. Tracy, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic. I was just listening to my book club, which is my favorite thing.
Well, what book are you reading?
We are reading The Untethered Soul. So, your focus today is conversation and listening, and The Untethered Soul gets you to listen to the voices in your head, which I have, I don't want to scare anybody out there, but I have a lot of voices in my head, and sometimes it's hard to listen to them. But, yeah, it's a fascinating, fascinating book.
So, I guess the first thing I would say is we all tend to, or many of us tend to listen, not know the difference. We tend to give the voices in our head more power over the voice in our heart. And when we come from the voice in our heart, we're coming from a balanced place where we're using our heart and our head, as opposed to just our head.
Absolutely. Totally
Right?
agree with that.
Cool. Well, I have a quote that I wanted to start with. It's a quote that I love when I start to talk about listening, because for me, listening has been a practice for many, 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 many years. And I just started one day after doing some workshops. I realized we didn't feel listened to by ourselves or by somebody else. And so I started dissecting listening. And in order to dissect it, listening became a practice for me. So I would play with it. I would go to the grocery store and I would shut up and I would listen. And then I would not just listen to the words, but I started to listen to the expressions and the things that people weren't telling me. And I started hearing myself say things. And then I realized, oh my God, I'm having communication with people, but I'm leaving out half of what they should know. I'm holding it back. I'm asking a question or I'm communicating, but half of what I want to say, I'm saying to myself, and I'm not sharing it with the other person. So they're not getting all the information, and I'm expecting that they are. And then vice versa. I would hear people talk, and I'd realize, oh my God, they're not giving me the whole story. They're only giving me a piece of the story. So I started expanding my listening. And before I give you the quote, Tracy, does that ever happen to you?
I think it has. What popped up for me in my head, Marilyn, was when you're walking through the grocery store and you see somebody you either know as a good friend or you know tertiarily, it's, hi, how are you? How's your day? Oh, everything's fine. Everything's fine. And you can tell from their body language, you can tell from the worry on their face, you can tell that everything's really not fine. And, the whole picture may be, this is just an inappropriate place to have a conversation in front of the apples at Smith's, but, are you okay? And, how many times do we answer that, or how are you question with, oh, I'm fine, and you're really not? And is it because you don't know the person? Is it because you don't want to share your struggles? I don't know. That's a really, really interesting kind of dynamic to kind of broaden your language skills, your listening skills.
That's somebody just joined us. Who is that?
That's Kristen Drysdale. She came in.
Hi. Hey.
How are you?
Cool. The more the merrier. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's a great opportunity.
Well, we started talking. My big thing is listening. And I believe that listening is the bridge to everything. It's the university of life. When you enter into the listening practice, you enter into your doctorate of doctorate degrees. And so I had started the conversation by saying how when I started my listening practice many years ago, I realized I wasn't giving everyone all the information. I mean, I would sit there in a conversation and somebody would ask me something and I would have two conversations going on at one time, basically. The one that I was saying and the one that I was saying to myself. And I would not complete my thought. I thought I did, but I was setting up the other person. And then the same thing in return. I realized other people weren't giving me all the information. So I asked Tracy if she ever had that same experience, and she said, yeah, sometimes she meets people who she doesn't really know, and she'll, how you doing? And they'll say, fine, but she knows. She's listening to something that's saying, they're not fine. There's something else going on here. It may not be wrong. There just may be something else going on there. And so we were just starting this conversation, and then your beautiful self appeared, and here we are. So does that happen to you also?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think that it can also happen with people that we're really close with, because we think that we know them so well. And so it's sometimes easy to jump to that conclusion, like, oh, I already know what you're going to say because I already know where you're coming from. And so it's really tricky to remind yourself, I need to listen to this person. And one thing that I think really helps with that is to play back what they're saying. So you say, this is what I'm hearing. Is this what you're saying? And that's a good practice to get into, to train yourself to actually listen to everything that they're saying.
Exactly. And then also at the same time to listen to what your personal agenda is. I mean, when you begin to listen,
yeah, that's tricky
it is. It's a kaleidoscope of information. I mean, you're getting your information, you're getting their information. There's stimulation going on all around you, so you're hearing everything. And the trick is to keen in, tune in to all of it. And the more you practice, the more you can. The more you can. Mm-hmm. And this is a quote that I wanted to kind of throw out, because I love it. It's the greatest problem in communication is the illusion that it has been accomplished.
Say that again.
All right. I love that. Thank you for asking me to repeat it. The greatest problem in communication is the illusion that it has been accomplished. David W. Davenport.
The illusion that the communication has been accomplished?
Yes, the greatest problem in communication is the illusion that the communication has been accomplished.
That's profound.
Yeah, why do you say that?
Well, because if we have a point to get across, if we have a communication to make, I am married to a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful man. His nickname is Crass Brown, because his real name is Chris. And he has no filter. He has no filter of any sort of fluffy, sweet, mushy. He just says everything exactly how it is. And we just had our 12-year anniversary this weekend. And so I'm used to his communication style. And I don't take half the stuff that comes out of his mouth seriously or personally, I guess I should say. I take it seriously. But I don't take it personally because I know that's who he is, and that's one of the reasons why I love him. But when I can watch other people have a conversation and the illusion that he's getting across what he means is filtered by the emotional response, having that blunt of a conversation style flares up in people. And I keep telling him, if we go out to dinner with friends, we're going to go and have a conversation, not an interrogation, if you don't mind. And that's just, but how many times in our daily life do we have a communication with somebody thinking that they're understanding exactly what we mean, and they don't because they have a different filter system? That's a really good quote. You're going to have to put that quote in the comment link after that. This is a really, What do you think, Kristen?
Oh, yeah, I think that's a great idea to put it in the comment stream. Just what you were saying about your husband and getting that filter. We think that we think other people understand what we're saying because that's where we're coming from. If you don't have a frame of reference for what the other person has been, then it's hard to. I'm frozen.
Oh, there you are.
Are you getting my sound?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was a really good point.
Yeah. See now that's perfect, because if the like truth and honesty, if we as we open up to our honesty and our authentic self, there's nothing to hide. We all do the same thing. I read a book many years ago by Elizabeth, I can't remember what her last name is. She started the Omega Institute. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of the Omega Institute up in Rhinebeck, New York, but it's this spiritual camp, and they have all kinds of workshops. And she said we're all bozos on the bus. So we're all learning, tripping over ourselves, doing all these things, and if we can, when we can, acknowledge that, then we won't be so funky and freaked out when we freeze, or when we didn't hear something, or when we don't understand something, because we all don't understand something all the time. We're all going to freeze all the time, sometimes. I mean, before the show started, if it wasn't for Tracy, the show might not have started. Right?
Well, you know, technical things, that's what we're all here to help each other out. You know, tech is tech. We can, yeah, but we wouldn't have been able to communicate, you know, had tech not gotten solved. So, you know, I'm looking at the room, Marilyn, I'm looking at the comment stream on my other computer, and I'm going to pronounce your name wrong, but it's spelled Ammon, so I'm going to say Amnon. John says, yes, we assume that because...
Okay, that's Ammon.
Ammon. We assume that because we've said it,
yep,
it's been understood and accepted. And that's interesting, because it's both under the understanding that we assume and the acceptance.
Right. And everybody, there's different, and I'll get into this at another hangout, because I'd like to keep doing this and invite anybody in that wants to come in and everybody that wants to listen. But there's different energies, and there's three main energies that we all communicate with. And when we listen and when we're aware of these energies, we understand what the energy needs and how the energy responds. So creative people are going to respond and listen one way and communicate. A doing type of person is going to respond and communicate in a different way, and so will somebody who's emotional. And I'll get into all of that at a later date. But when we understand the energy and who we're talking to and who we are, we can communicate much more fully. So somebody who's creative is going to be, you know, they're going to take things literally. And somebody who's from the heart looks for emotion in how people communicate. And those are the kinds of things that open up how we are comfortable in communication. Here's another bit of research, and this is from the International Listening Association. According to the International Listening Association, 45% of our time is actually spent listening, while we are distracted, preoccupied, or forgetful 75% of the time. And this is really crazy. The adult attention span averages 22 seconds, and right after listening to someone, we usually recall about half of what we've actually heard. Within a few hours, we remember about 20%. So if we're not making eye contact, if we say too much too quickly and we're overpowering, there are certain things that if we do those things, then we're even cutting back on the amount that somebody can respond or understand from what we say, and vice versa. Does that make sense? So let me give it to you again. According to yeah, 45% of our time is actually spent listening, while we're distracted, preoccupied, or forgetful 75% of that time. So of all of our time, we're actually spending 45% of it listening, and 75% of that 45%, we're not even there. We're forgetting.
Can I ask, just because so many things are rolling around, when was
Sure.
when was that stat taken? Before or after the advent of, mobile devices?
Before.
It's probably worse now.
Probably. That is probably one of the. That is so brilliant of you to say that. That is so true, because this is before that. So it's probably getting worse. Absolutely. That absolutely.
And how much?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Intent play into it? How much does intent play into it? Because if you have the intent to listen to someone, then you're going to be using different areas of your brain than if you're just something because it's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, consciousness is listening. When you're conscious, you're aware.
Mm-hmm.
Awareness is listening. So the idea, the practice, is to go into the levels of life, is to the deepest level of life, and to grab whatever, to listen to whatever you can, to help it all make sense. So the more conscious we are, the more we're listening, the more we're aware of these levels of life and the meaning behind everything. I mean, life becomes much juicier when we listen, and so much easier. And all these misunderstandings and the wars and all these things that we are going through and all the controls that we give up is because we're not listening.
Do you think we're not listening because we don't want to hear the other side? I mean, when you talk about a global picture, not just, meeting my friend at the grocery store, do we not want to hear the other side? Do we not believe or validate the other side? And our intention, which is my favorite word, Kristen, our intention is to make our view, to change their mind, not to hear their view. When we talk about the global scale. And I don't know.
Well, we're scared. There's a lot of fear around us. So first, of course, we have to start with ourselves. And a couple of weeks ago, was in my bathroom drying my hair, thinking about a presentation I was going to be doing, because I've been doing a lot of listening presentations lately. And all of a sudden, it dawned on me that listening is a mirror of ourselves. I mean, it's a mirror to everything, but everything starts with everything starts with ourselves. So when we can, we all know how to listen. The idea is giving ourselves permission and to remember to listen. And so, because we think if we listen, we're agreeing to everything. That's not the case. Listening and agreeing are almost two different things. Listening doesn't mean that I have to sit here and say yes to everything you say, but I can listen. Does that make sense?
It does.
So, yeah.
We have a question from Crystal Parcell. Why do you think recall is getting worse?
Because I'm guessing because we're so distracted that we're not listening to the whole piece. And so this is the thing. So if you say something to me, I might listen to a piece of what you say, and then I'm distracted by something you said. So it makes me go off into space. It makes me go into La La Land. It makes me go into something else I did yesterday. It triggers something. And as I practice my listening, I'm practicing staying focused so that I can hear everything that you say, so that I can recall. And if I don't remember everything you said, but I remember a piece of it, I always tell people, listen, what is the worst thing in the world if you turned around to somebody and you said, hey, Kristen, you said something, or Tracy, you said something that was so interesting to me that I went off into space. Do you mind repeating that again? What are people going to do? Except, wow, I said something so good that you were so interested by it, you went off into space? That's not the end of the world. Okay, let me repeat it again if I can even remember. So that's another thing.
Oh my goodness.
That's good.
And it doesn't always work that though. It would be nice if it does, but it doesn't always, because I've had an experience where just recently, last night, and I did the same thing, and then someone was trying to pull my attention somewhere else, and I asked him to please repeat it because I really wanted to hear what he said, and he's like, no, it's not gonna be fun to tell you again. So that's my little bit.
Okay, but that's great. But then there's something else to listen to there. What else do you hear when somebody says that? Like if you asked me, can you repeat?
I had to fight it out of him. I was like, no, please. I begged him.
Well, okay, but there's something else. But there's something else that you're hearing then. The difference between, let's say, what he might have had an experience with and then somebody else. You're hearing something about their need or about how validated or what they might need in a situation, and maybe you're listening underneath that to see, what do they need in this minute that I could give them, then I'll get what I'm looking for. Every experience, isn't going to be the same, and you're not going to get a warm and fuzzy, but it's what matters to you as well. So if you're asking for this and you've owned up to it, you feel good about yourself. You can't control what somebody else says or how they respond, but you're hearing something in their response that gives you information. The other thing about recall is, if I'm speaking from my heart, or when I speak from my heart, it's sometimes harder for me to recall what I'm saying. Sometimes I can't repeat it because it was in that flash of a moment, of a second. And it was like all of us have these fleeting moments of genius, those intuitive flashes. Sometimes they're not pre-programmed. Sometimes I can't remember. If I'm sitting with a client or a friend or whatever, and they say, can you say that again? I'll say, no, I can't. I have no idea I just know the feeling it might have left me with, maybe some kind of information that I got, but I couldn't repeat it again. And I'm listening.
Wow. So from the outside, Christopher is saying, wouldn't it increase because writing increases memory and tension? If we
that's what I've been thinking.
Notes. He added something about applying a cell phone, but I can't scroll down fast enough to figure out what that part of it was. Maybe he can expand on that. But what do you think about that? Writing, obviously, if you're in a grocery store, you can't take notes while you're talking. But if you're in a situation like this, the taking of the notes or the writing it down.
Everybody learns and recalls differently. Like if you said something right now that was really interesting, not if, but as you say something, I'm going to, maybe I'll write down a word or two words that will give me a spark of what you say, because if I write too much, I'm going to miss everything else that you say. So I would personally would rather hone in on my listening skills and hone in on creating a relationship, so that if I lose something, I could come back to you. I could say, 3 heads here are better than 1. Let me come back to Kristen. Let me ask Tracy. Let me build these relationships, so I don't have to worry about if I forget this or if I need this. I can just come back to you and say, what do you remember that? And then together we can come up with it. But if I sit here and write, I'm going to miss 3/4 of what you said, because then I'm too worried about doing something as opposed to just being here in the moment.
That's true. That's true. And Mike Fountain from across the pond says, listening is a choice. We can choose to be present, or we can allow ourselves to be distracted.
Yeah. Is that Michael's quote?
That's Mike Fountain, yeah. And it scrolled by, so I can't get the rest of it because there's too many people out there talking.
Yeah. And that's good. I mean, that's great. I can't see any of the chat.
Yeah, we didn't have time to set up comment trackers, so that's why I opened up my other computer so that we could have some participation from outside.
Perfect. So, thank you very much for doing that, Tracy. Because I have no idea what people are saying.
We'll teach you, babe. No worries. Good. No worries.
Yes, thank you. Well, yeah, I'm listening.
What do you What do you think about the concept? I hear it all the time of time-spaced repetition. You know, you read a book now, 6 months later you read a book again, 6 months later you read a book again, and that spaced repetition knowledge when it comes to studying something. I told you I was on book club. Excuse me. This morning I do a 6:15 book club every day, and we decided we're reading The Untethered Soul, and we decided to turn around and read it again, back to back. It's the first time this 4-year-long book club has ever done that, because it's such powerful information, and we're going to be different people when we read it the second time, because we have some of the knowledge from the first passage and being able to apply what we learned to the next one. And just curious what you think about that.
I think it's brilliant. I think that, you know, we've spent so much time, we've spent a lot of time rushing and being impatient. And we jump from this to this to this to this. Really, if we just sat back and listened, we'd get all the information that we want, right? If we read one book over and over and over again, we'd probably get a multitude of information. And because you can't grab hold of everything that you read when you're reading one book. But if it's a really good book and you read it again, I think that's brilliant. Because even today or any day, I always say to people, the learning isn't just in here. The learning happens out there. So you read a book and you read it and you learn from it and you go live it. And then you read the book again. Stuff that you read in there becomes even more powerful. It's like the third time you're seeing it, or the fourth time you're seeing it because you just lived it. So I think that's a brilliant idea. Instead of rushing to read another book and another, you know, we're always gobbling something up. I think that's a brilliant idea. Yeah, great idea. Part of listening is obviously, and it seems so common, but we forget, it's just taking our time. Everything's going to come if we listen. It's all there. I mean, it's just all there. And it's so simple. I mean, we have made life so complicated when we don't have to. It's just, it's so simple. And there are people every day of the week that are around to lend a helping hand. Everybody, so many people. And we've made life way too complicated. So if we tune into each other, tune into ourselves is really important. We're going to hear everything that we need to hear. And what we don't, then we'll understand something. Maybe we'll understand it's not ready yet. Or maybe we'll understand that person hasn't appeared yet. But there's a peace in listening. There's a level of intelligence that is out here that we all have access to. And it's talking about it like this. I am so excited that you ladies and everybody that's on the chat has joined us, because, oh, am I getting really fuzzy here? Because I want to create like a laboratory. I want us to be the listening specimens and go out there and share. I mean, Tracy, what you said about reading the same book twice, that little bit of information is so huge to free us up so the other people can do that. Kristen, what you shared about your friend and the struggle you had to get this person to share again. So many people have that experience. So if we could come together like this and share all of these kinds of engagements, all of these kinds of experiences, and say, okay, next time maybe I can do this. Next time, oh, have you ever tried this? Or, you know what happened to me the other day? I mean, one of my favorite things to talk about when I started my practice was when I was in a restaurant, and I was sitting across from a colleague talking, and the woman came to take our order, and she said, "Can I take your order?" And I looked at her and I said, "I'll have this, this, this." And I turned back away, and I looked at my friend again. And she went and came back, and anything else? I said, "Yeah, a glass of water, please." And I looked at her quick, came back, looked back at my colleague. I never got my water. Well, I tuned into my listening, and I listened to the room. It was 12 o'clock. It was very crowded. Lunch was happening. She was distracted. There was a lot of noise, all these things. So what I did was I turned and I looked at her next time and made eye contact, and I stayed there. And my eyes pierced the moment. And I said, "Yes, may I have a glass of water, please?" I got my water. Now, I didn't have to get angry. I got my water. And that was it. And that was from a listening practice. That was from understanding and expanding this notion of listening beyond just turning on the radio and listening to music or tuning something in, but really, really, really taking it as deep. And I don't know where else we can take it. Where I can take it, where we can take it, I have no idea. But I'm listening. I'm listening to the messages. And I want each of us to come together with our ahas and our messages, because each of our messages are meant to be shared. They cannot possibly, these brilliant things can't be just mine alone. And your brilliant things can't be just yours alone, and none of them. They all have to come together. And the more we come together, the more empowered we all will be, and the more freedom we'll experience.
Amen.
Well, I feel like drinking to that and saying hallelujah.
It's only 8 o'clock in the morning for me, though, so I'm going to stick with my tea, if that's all right.
Where are you? Okay, so tell everybody where you are.
I'm outside of Taos, New Mexico.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm in the Mountain Time Zone.
Wow.
And my husband and I manage a ranch, so we're out here in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, you manage a ranch, and you have animals and things on your ranch.
Grass-fed beef operation, llamas, alpacas, sheep, anything really that doesn't have feathers. The owner of the ranch has the biggest heart in Taos County, and if you need it adopted, he probably will. We have many, many horses that we've adopted over the past couple years as hay prices have gone kooky, and sheep and goats, and yeah.
Wow. Taos. I have always wanted to go there.
Come on over. If you can sit outside, you can come to the ranch.
Isn't Taos where, what's the artist? God, there was a famous artist, a woman, wasn't she from Taos? Oh, I can't remember. I'll have to think about it.
If you're thinking of Georgie O'Keeffe.
Yes.
She's a little bit down the road, made her home in Abiquiu, New Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah.
The energy there must be extraordinary.
It's fantastic.
I bet.
It hasn't quite given me my watercolor skills that I wanted it to, but it's given me so much peace everywhere else. So,
that's good.
How about you, Kristen? Where are you calling in from? Oh, we can't hear her.
Can't hear you. Kristen, can you hear us? Oh, well, maybe she'll come back.
I think she's in Arizona someplace.
Okay, Arizona?
I think so.
Oh, wow, you're all up early. I'll have to change the next time. Maybe we can do this at another time, and maybe more people would like to join in and add things that they're learning and things that they're experiencing. And I'm from North Carolina, but not. Oh, we lost her. That she's gone. But I'm from North Carolina, actually from New York, but I live in North Carolina.
Oh, I thought you were in Florida for some reason.
No, I've been there sometimes. My mother lives there, but no, I'm in North Carolina.
Okay.
So, there she is. She's back.
She's popping back in.
Yeah.
Marilyn, I don't know if you're looking at the time, but it is 8:05. I'm not sure.
Yes, thank you.
Expected to go today.
Yeah. I was going to acknowledge that, so thank you for that. I would love to do this again and invite more people to join in and talk. So, Christian, you're back, right? Can you hear us? No. Maybe she can hear us. So
Okay.
Tracy,
Can you hear me?
Yeah. We were just going to get ready to end, but where are you from? Where do you live?
Okay. I'm in Queen Creek, Arizona.
Oh.
Sorry, I did a reload.
Okay. Well, I had to do it too before. So two kind of West Coast people.
Yeah.
That's cool.
West Side, what is it? West Side, or I don't know. Sandra Solano, I need your hand gestures. I don't remember what it is for West Side, but that's what it is.
I don't know. So let me ask the two of you, and myself included, and everybody that's listening and still listening before we end. I would love to send out an opportunity that we all work together on maybe expanding our own listening practices and coming back together again and sharing, something that you had experienced. And a listening practice means just kind of putting that word listening into your consciousness, into your third eye, into your heart, and just wherever you go, you just, okay, what does it mean in this situation to listen? What does it mean in this situation? Sometimes it's a doing thing. Sometimes it's just a being quiet thing. Sometimes it's whatever. It can be a number of things. It's taking action. It's serving somebody. So is that something, Tracy, you interested in doing that?
I'd love to.
Great.
Because that would really put in my mindset to have a conscious intention, Kristen's word, a conscious intention to really focus on my listening practice for, a designated amount of time. That's a fantastic challenge.
Perfect. Kristen, you up for it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Cool.
I struggle in this area. I'm much better at writing, but I struggle in this, so this will be a good challenge for me.
Well, thank you for saying that, because in writing, if you are listening. We all have areas of listening that we are good at or really good at. I mean, if you're writing, you're really good at listening to something, because something's got to come to you that, like your pen or your pencil or the typewriter is listening to. You're listening to something to get it on paper, so you are listening. But now you just want to take it to the areas maybe that you're not so comfortable with, because that's the kind of deep listening we want to expand into, the areas that we are out of our comfort zone, because that's when we really open up to this world of listening. So I'm going to do it too. I'm going to and bring more information and more experiences to the table. So I'll if you have certain days that are better for you, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just put it out. And I'd love to hear from you both personally, and anybody that's listening. Please feel free to comment. You can write me personally. You can call me personally. Anything. And I thank you so much for this opportunity. And Kristen and Tracy, it's just been wonderful to be here with you. And thank you so much for all of your help, Tracy, and helping with all that stuff.
You're welcome. Well, we'll do a hangout training session, and it'll all be fine. But no worries.
Perfect.
It was fantastic conversation. I love the quotes, and really, I need to put at least one good listening quote. I'm looking at my dream board, and I don't know how I missed it. I have no listening quotes. I mean, I have some Miguel Ruiz, The Power of the Word, but I have no listening quotes. So I might be talking powerful, but nobody's hearing me. So I have to get that up on my intention, my dream board.
Well, maybe they are listening to you, and you haven't listened to how much impact you've had.
That's a beautiful thought. Thank you.
You're welcome. And the fact that
you take that with me for the rest of the day.
Wonderful.
Bye, everybody. Now you have to hit the stop broadcast button.
Stop broadcast.
Yay!
All right. Bye.